I got lost.
Yours is right here. Do I know the answer?
There was a whole section of that. Aaron, do you know his book, The Dot and the Line?
The dot and the what?
The Dot and the Line. It's
No.
a romance in 2 dimensions. It's a mathematical. It's a kid, but it's a kid's book. Way outside that.
As a graphic designer, dot and the line are very, very important. So,
The classified association would like to have a meeting over yeah. They'll want to do after school anyway, once we get out. So,
right my way.
okay. Joe?
Yep.
Do you have February 6th? I was looking at it.
For
Classified ground rules for negotiations.
February 6th. I have nothing on my calendar at the moment. It's the work day for my wife.
Thank you. I'll get an invite out.
Sure. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, we're gonna use this one.
No, that's fine.
I'm not using it.
That's all right. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was touching going. So, all right, we're gonna call the meeting to order. And Aaron, you want to lead us in place?
Certainly. We begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, consent agenda. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as is presented in our packet.
One second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. And I'm here to catch it here.
Exactly. It's where I'm at too.
A couple questions, or one question anyhow, on the field trips. Cheerleaders going to cheer camp in Seattle. And I only see 2 coach and staff. Is there more parents that are signed up to go with that, or?
Not yet, and because of the size of their group, they're okay with 2.
Oh, just 2? Okay.
To be able to make that happen.
Okay.
So, and we've, at this time, there are only female students attending, so we don't need a male chaperone
Okay.
on that.
How many kids were going?
So it's gonna be next year's cheer folks. There's probably a dozen.
A dozen? Okay.
I thought I read that there were parents going as well.
And I'm sure there will be. She just wanted to get the coaches in there
Gotcha.
to be able to make sure that was covered.
I really oh, there we go. Is this too close?
Getting there.
Okay.
No. Got it? Okay. 12 kids going then?
That's
Roughly?
usually how many go.
I'm seeing a price of $14,000.
So part of that,
15 students, it says 15 students and 3 coaches. But I only see 2 coaches listed on the thing. And the total is 14,000. That, to me, that seems like a lot of money, but maybe not for what they learn, I don't know.
part of it is I think it's the 3rd or 4th line item down, I can't recall off the top of my head, it's something about apparel.
The
So it's actually
camp
all,
gear,
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
they wear for
Yeah.
all of the fall season for their uniform, so
okay.
it's actually part of.
So they
That's part of it.
get Paloma uniforms up there?
They get pieces that they wear during summer camps, during the, like when they do the little kid summer camp, and then
Okay.
during the fall season.
All right, well, it just hit me as kind of expensive for 15 kids to $14,000, so.
And I can certainly ask about that.
I had a question about that too. So do they do any of their own fundraising or is this coming out of district funds?
No,
It's
I
their-
read it, they're all,
Okay, I just wanted to
Fundraising.
That's what I
clarify.
thought it
Just
said,
wanted to
there's no
clarify.
district fund.
yeah,
Yeah, they do a fire sale fundraiser.
Okay.
It's after the event, but it helps.
yeah, so student athletes are to raise funds by June 20th. Any fees not covered by funding will be the parent responsibility.
Okay.
So there's nothing coming from the district.
Nothing coming from the district according to this. So, yeah, that was just, I think, the only question that I had.
It's a different venue this year than they've done. They usually go to, oh, we're not going to which one. One of the colleges near Portland,
Yeah, I can't remember where they go.
the Virginia Arts and Career.
Then the art club is going to Seattle in April.
Yes.
That's cool, they can take the bus or the train.
Yeah, and they're working on their fundraising to be able to take care of that. There are a lot of, what Andrea did was got a whole list of people who would be interested and available to go. With only 12 students right now, it appears, she's not gonna need all that list of people to be able to attend with her. But they've got it all under control in terms of what they wanna do, and they're well on top of it, because I asked about all the chaperones and things like that, and she said, I was just hedging my bets, dependent upon what we might need.
Okay. And kudos to those 2 people that put that in
Yes,
early,
yep,
because so many times in the past, we've got requests after they've already went and done something. So you might pass that along, but it's
I will.
appreciated that they request that before it comes up.
and it's always appreciated, because that gave me a chance with Andrea in particular to be able to go back and ask questions before it ever came this far, and much appreciated in terms of the conversation that we had the opportunity to engage in.
Yeah, so, okay, anybody else got anything? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Request for agenda mods, let's see, yeah, request for agenda modifications. And you wanted to put something in here, kind of on the calendar for the makeup days.
Yeah, I wanted to add in the conversation so that we can get information out to parents and students about, well, and staff about makeup days.
Yeah, so,
We may not be in a position to be able to, and we don't need to necessarily make a determination tonight about what that means for 2 days versus 3 days or whatever of staff time, but to get information out to parents and staff about which days will actually be student days
we'll put it
is
on,
important.
we'll put it on D2.
Thank you.
So only other modification, I think, is under important dates, that I believe our board meeting date has
Yes.
changed
It
from
has.
that. So that needs to just get updated.
Yeah. Yeah, for anybody looking at the agenda, February 15th is also the evening that the Falmouth Chamber Samaritan Awards have been scheduled for. And so with that already being published and buttoned up, we reached out to board members, and there's a desire to have participation within the community. So our board meeting will be February 29th instead.
Yeah, the board meeting took second chair.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Once every 4-year board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, got that, back up here, public comment. And I seen there was one person signed up over there, but I don't know if they made a green card because it was the,
It might have just been,
auditor.
it might have been signing the sign sheet.
Just sign
Some
it.
Yeah, the
people just
sign-in
in.
sheet, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people just sign in.
So, no public comment, student government report.
Hello, so, let's see, things have been sort of slow. We came back from the break, in January, and then had a week off. Unexpectedly. But ASB is hosting a dance February 3rd. And the Philomath Drama Department's working on Matilda right now. I'm not sure when that will be available to the public, but I'm assuming probably end of the trimester. And then winter sports, basketball, wrestling have already started having matches and home games. I know we had 2 students from the high school make all-star for dance competition this past weekend, so that's good. Polar Plunge is February 17th. That's for unified basketball. So if you want to sign up to go, run into some cold water and raise money for unified basketball, you can do that. There's QR codes, I'm sure, on the Paloma website, and also hanging up around the school. And then this Friday is the end of the semester for the middle school. So the high school and middle school will both be out. Your teachers are never graded yet. That's all for now.
Okay, thank you. All right, reports. DEA report, Dave, Nicole. That's all Dave tonight, huh?
This is what happens. I'm not gonna deny.
Come here hey, we're almost halfway through the school year. Everybody's still breathing, so we're good. So far, we had a nice discussion, a meeting and a discussion with Susan on a couple of issues yesterday. We had some productive conversations. We did talk about swim days. We expressed our willingness to effectively follow what our makeup schedule is to the extent that the board wants to put it in place. I wanted to just mention a couple of things as you consider, when you do consider your options. One is that Corvallis School District announced today that they were only going to make up 1 of the 3 snow days from last week. Just really the way other people are doing it. Also, the recognition that most of our teachers worked on and off over those 3 days that we were off. I don't think anybody, given a day at home, doesn't spend a few hours working and catching up. We do have a conference and grading day coming up this Friday, which is for for all the district employees. We're continuing to talk about how the makeup schedule is going to look, and so there are some moving parts that need to be worked out, especially with classified employees, and so let's deal with that. But we're pretty much in agreement that as long as we're not extending this school year, we're going to make what we're going to make up. Don't need to talk at that point. Hopefully, we won't have any more studies. So, also, Nicole and I especially want to thank the extracurricular committee who returned a report to the 3 of us. If you remember, the extracurricular committee was formed as an extension of bargaining. It was kind of we left some things that probably should have been, that were part of the discussion that we didn't really want to hang bargaining up on last fall or last summer. And our intent is to see what we can do about, especially this extra duty contract, which is a hugely complicated and somewhat not up-to-date part of the contract that just kind of gets passed off sometimes when we negotiate because it's so messy. Our goal is to come to some agreements in the form of a memorandum for this contract year to get us ready for, and that was, we actually have an MOA that sets this up. And then if we can straighten some things out, hopefully it makes, when we go back to the negotiations next spring, that much more smooth, because we won't have to deal with that part of the contract, and that can be a part of the contract that gets sticky. Because especially when pieces of it aren't as well defined as maybe we want it to be. So we're looking for some definitions. The committee did some great work and got the ball rolling. Now we want to see where we want to go and what we may want to get to do other pieces of research, and then continue, and it is a continued negotiation. It's and we've been treating it as a negotiation with PA and administration. It's not just, let's change a bunch of stuff. It's just it's kind of a smaller negotiation session. So we really appreciate the opportunity to do that. I think that was good foresight when we were finishing off our contract, to be able to agree that we would set that off and hopefully come to some agreements this spring. If we don't make any change agreements this spring, we will stay with status quo contract until the next negotiation session. But I think we have a lot of confidence that we're going to be able to work a few things out. If not everything out, we'll never work everything out. But in that particular section of the contract, to streamline our negotiation process and keep it from stretching out for a really long time, which it sometimes does when we have a lot of things to go over. So those are our main notes. Looking forward to the second half of the year, and
I would echo the goodness of the co-curricular group. It's in my reporting to be able to do that. And thank you for the update on Corvallis and what they're doing.
we got a couple of texts about that this afternoon.
I bet.
When we discussed this last month about Dave, when they were talking about the missing day in the schedule or something, that there may be a snow day forgiven or something.
OSEA.
Hi, Amber French, Laura Shannon, we're co-presidents for OSEA. Not a lot going on. We still are having our union meetings regularly. This year it is every quarter because we're going into a bargaining year, which we are hoping will start early February, as long as it's check out for everybody.
And it looks like it does, by the way.
Yay! Oh, she looks like it does. Yeah, good, awesome. And we are working, Laura and I are also on JLMC, and we have meetings with Susan once a month, and we are working on the job descriptions, which were in our last CBA, to get finalized by June 2024. And after tonight's session, we're almost, I think we're almost done. We're about 8%. We'll see. And I think the snow days also, we are looking forward to seeing what the decision is. And we would like to thank maintenance and custodial for coming in on Thursday and making it as safe as they could for everybody to come back to school on Friday.
Little kids love to play on the ice.
Yeah. And I heard some teachers, so don't be calling out loud. Nobody should pray. Yeah, but I think that's about it. Yeah, we're eager to get started on bargaining. We've had 2 prep bargaining meetings with our committee, and we're ready. We know what we want. So, I mean, if you just slide across the table. So I'm hoping for 2 or 3 meetings, watch. But no, I think that's better.
Yeah.
Is that all we got rolling? Going?
We just don't have any more weather, snow
Uh-huh.
days, ice days, would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Let's all pray.
Yes.
That's it.
Look at it positively. One bargaining session, you'll be done.
I'm saying I have it ready. It's golden, trust me, just close your eyes.
Just sign, it's fine. Thank you guys. Yeah, see, Erin's got it.
No pressure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At the grocery store checkout.
See you tomorrow.
Bye, Erin's.
Acuity auditors.
No. Hi there. I'm Corey from Acuity, the district's auditing firm. And
I'll start by saying it's all good news. Not that you didn't already know that, but this was by far the smoothest audit, I will say, not just since Jennifer took over, but I think ever with the district that we've ever had. So I want to give kudos to Jennifer and her staff. Yeah, every year they say, how can we do better? And then they do it. They take our feedback. In the first couple of years, sometimes there were some closing weirdnesses with the accounting program. They figured all that out. Mary is an absolute rock star with capital assets, and everything we need, they've already, they've already made all the adjustments and all of that. So it's just every year it's gotten better, and that's so neat to see. And that's because they have leadership that really encourages them and supports them in that. So it's really neat to see. So we'll talk briefly about numbers, but I won't bore you because I know they're already 7 months old. So full accrual basis, not your budget basis, but full accrual including capital assets and debt and all of the pension liabilities. The district ended with $3.6 million of current assets, which you have available to pay bills in the current year. Net position ended at $5.6 million, which was an increase of about $460,000. Of that, almost all, the unrestricted is actually a negative $13 million. It ties almost directly to the pension liabilities. So that's a scary thing to hear, that you have unrestricted negative net position. It all is driven really from that pension liability. So not scary in our eyes. And it's interesting, when the pandemic started and as we've been coming out of it, just economically, the $461,000, again, full accrual, not budget basis, but we were terrified that it was going to be, 5 years of just horrible outcomes. And what we've seen is that it really hasn't been, but it's almost, that's a false net income, because it's because of not being able to fill positions and not being able to get projects completed. And, so it looks nice, but at the same time, we know that there was a very significant cost, mostly in personnel, where there's understaffing happening. So if you look at that and go, wow, look at us, there's reasons behind it. We all know that, we all talk about them. General fund ended the year at $1.5 million of ending fund balance. That's about 7% of your annual need. The Government Finance Officers Association would love to see you at 10%, but that's not significantly lower. And again, I say that knowing that there's so much balancing that has to go on with providing services. Your federal audit this year was, we tested ESSER for probably the last time. I had no issue with it. We had absolutely no issues at all. This was a year for ESSER issues, so it was nice to have one that didn't have any. So again, kudos. Oregon requires that we look at budget compliance, at public contracting compliance, did we have insurance, all the good stuff. And everything that they have us look at, everything was good as well. We had no issue with that. So I told you it was all good news. We did have 4 audit adjustments. If you happen to look through them in your board packet that you got, the total adjustment was $31,000, so who cares? It was almost, that one was all property taxes. And that's just a lag in information from Benton County, and so we just usually report that entry. The other ones were just a few cleanup things. So the reason I bring that up every year is because you as a board are making decisions based on the monthly financials you get, and it's nice to know that they're accurate. And so me being able to tell you that was really a good thing. That's it. We had one thing we asked Jennifer to fix, and she has already done it. It was a very minor, just internal control, some documentation of review, and she and Susan have already fixed that. So that's it. I know, isn't that great? Yes. Thank you.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
Thank you for the report. I
Of
actually
course.
read it. I really did. I was like, wow, this is great.
Wait till her second year on the board.
I know. What you said?
I said, wait till her second year.
No, but so thank you also for clearing up that negative 31,000. I was very
Yeah.
confused by that, and I was like, uh-oh.
So, yeah, not everybody pays their property taxes, right? It would be lovely if everyone did. So
Right.
that's every year at June 30, we have to look at what was receivable. The county does, luckily, you have an amazing county in Benton County. They do print the reports for us, but it takes them a little while.
Sure.
And so usually, they haven't quite printed them yet by the time that we have Jennifer send us the trial balance, so it's
Yeah.
just timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciated the report. I didn't understand every piece of it,
That's okay.
but I appreciate
Thank you for paying attention, we appreciate that.
It's a lot. I was like, ooh, this is written by a lawyer. I can.
This is just a summary.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know.
And then the
Yeah.
Kings Valley one will get like an umbrella, right?
Kings Valley is
all in
done,
there,
they
too.
usually present it to you, is
Yeah,
my
that's what I was
understanding.
wondering.
Yeah, is they have to come do their annual
I feel
report
like
to
it
you.
was February or March.
Yeah, it's usually February, I think, yeah, because sometimes we overlap, but yeah, meeting's done for that as well. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
That's
night.
it. Okay.
Get out of here.
Okay, now let's see, I believe, this one, we have to approve the audit.
I make motions that we approve that as presented.
You're welcome.
Second?
That been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Right.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay.
Thank you again for all your hard work, Jennifer.
Yeah, no kidding. Good job.
It's been awesome.
And team.
Yeah, right.
Here's what Peter told a little bit later, so we're gonna move the city of.
Well, I thought that's why Chris was here.
I'm just a
He's
community.
just here.
Oh, man, I thought you were
We
the
missed
representative.
There'll be a different large man named Chris here.
I mean, I sure give you the opportunity to pick on you tonight.
A different large man or a, never mind.
Let's see, city proposal approval, let's go to number 6. Aaron, will you get me a bottle of water, please?
Yes, that's exactly what I was doing.
Well, I know, but I figured you were going over that way, so just throw one this way.
I think that's the one I picked.
Thank you.
Oh, it's really high on
It's not like a kid on it. Are you two gonna sit?
You can too.
So there's a joke, so last year, there was one chair, and I was kind of standing up for awkwardly, or, like Madonna, and so we were like, there's only 2, and there's 3 people. Fantastic, we'll get two of that. So,
I'm gonna hit one light so we can be back a little bit.
great.
Hopefully I get the right one right first time.
So, I'm Cynthia Bartholdi, Student Services Director, and you have
Donna Stower, special education teacher at Fulham Elementary.
Eric Beasley, principal of Fulham Elementary.
and we're here to present tonight on social emotional learning. You will have a presentation that will be more in depth at a later time, but it's just kind of an overview. I did want to mention that we did present, I think it was in the fall of 2022, that's when there was only one chair up here. And we did talk a little bit with regards to social emotional learning. We kind of put things together, the ice storm, and then, doing everything. Lexi, our counselor, was going to join us, but it was a late notice with that. So we do have 2 counselors who do a lot of work with regards to social emotional learning who are sitting in our audience tonight. I definitely want to recognize them. Our counselors are absolutely amazing. We have Valerie and we have Mike from our schools, and so if they chime in, it would be absolutely wonderful. And if you have any questions, I don't want to put them on the spot, but I definitely know that they can answer them. So, with that being said, we're bringing forward a presentation to you just to talk about some of the work that the district's been doing. Social emotional learning, though, has been around in our counselors and our special education teachers, our schools, our janitors, custodians, parents have been doing social emotional learning. I just kind of feel like it's been named, and now it has some standards behind it. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that work that's been happening in the school district. So.
Yeah, so as Cynthia said, obviously that going back up one slide, social emotional learning is not something that's new. There are some new requirements coming from the ODE, but it's something that I think that any good school has always had a commitment to educating kids. There's a quote on this one from an Oregon student that says, social emotional learning is about how to healthily interact with others and take care of yourself. I think that's a pretty good definition, and I think for me, like as a building principal, obviously we're going to get into some of the kind of the more technical things like the systematic things, but I also like to look at social emotional as a kind of a broad brush as well. So I put a picture in here. This is the student Izzy, and so even things when a movie night, those things that where we're partnering with the community. And I always feel like that's really important to recognize that we have the privilege of coming alongside parents with that and teaching those social skills. In my office, I keep this little brain, and I sometimes will talk to kids. I'll be like, "What were you thinking?" Like, I wasn't thinking, and I have to remember that. Yeah, we know that the prefrontal cortexes are not developed in our kids, so we have to teach them, right? That's where growing dendrites every day when we're helping kids. Dendrites out, and it's just really kind of cool to think about that that's what's happening every day with our kids. So while Izzy is dressed up like an old lady, she still has a very undeveloped prefrontal cortex, and I sometimes think back to myself as an elementary kid, and I'm so thankful to all my educators and PE and counselors and all of those that helped me grow my brain. So next slide. I also think one of the things, and I don't like to read PowerPoint slides to people, but if you key in on the last bullet there, you'll see something that should sound familiar, which is our commitment to our students and communities to graduate every student and transition them to a job, training, or college. We know when we talk to businesses, when we talk to people, that social skills is really important, that in order to be successful. And so that's on us as an education team to make sure that kids learn how to make eye contact, how to talk with people, how to regulate their emotions when you're stressed out that you're going to have to talk to the board and YouTube and those things that we teach kids that are important skills. And so that's something that I think that if we're going to actually fulfill our mission as stated there, then we not just because ODE has come and said you will do SEL, but this is something that we've just known to be true. And I think there's been a good commitment in this district to social emotional even prior to where we sit now.
So Eric, if I hear you, then your brain isn't flipped right now.
Right.
We're good. Absolutely. So one of the things that we talked about last year that's been ongoing is the work from ODE and the Oregon Department of Education. And so they've named it, right, in terms of social emotional learning. And that happened right around 2022. And then in 2022, 2023, the school year, they did work, and then they started rolling out some standards. They had a committee. Donna and I tried, some of the team tried to get on that. We weren't granted that, but we did figure out some of the work that they were doing. And now you have the new guiding principles that's coming out with the policy. The policy is in play, and in June or July of 2024, House Bill 2166 will be full, and we will need to officially be doing social emotional learning. But as we said, social emotional learning is already happening. Students are already, welcome to schools. There's already work that happens for students to feel like they belong in our schools. We just had new students that have moved in, and we're finding a desk for students, ensuring, that they have their care packages, that everything is ready for them. That's the belonging of our students in our schools, and that is one of the core elements of social emotional learning. So you will see, I'm going to talk a little bit further about this in terms of the standards. So I'll kind of ask Donna to talk a little bit about some of the standards in terms of the work that the state did with that work with CASEL.
Yeah.
So these are really the 5 pillars or categories of social emotional learning that the state is instituting. And it was set out by CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning, which is kind of the founding organization of social emotional learning. And it starts with self-awareness, students being aware of their own emotions, their identity, their values. And then it kind of progresses to then managing those things. So self-management is the next one. And then as students start to look outward, we talk about social awareness, knowing the rules of social interaction. And then one step further is building those positive relationships with others. And then finally, responsible decision-making. So those are kind of the 5 categories that of social emotional learning that we teach. Next slide. So SEL is really a lot older than you would think. It actually came out of the work of Dr. James Comer at Yale University in 1968, which is, you wouldn't think they were talking about SEL in 1968. And he did research in his community in Connecticut about the effect of social emotional learning on academic performance. And that research just grew and grew, and then in 1994, it became the formal organization CASEL, a nonprofit, and they really set out the definition of what SEL is, these 5 pillars of it, and now they work with hundreds of districts across the country and with the State Department of Education's helping them implement research-based SEL. And they are really a depository for curriculum, and they give their blessing to different curriculums. If you look at SEL curriculums, you'll see aligned with CASEL on it sometimes. And so they're kind of the organization that we look to.
When I had a chance to, next slide, come and talk to you guys in, I think it was November, we were talking about literacy and you were gracious enough to invite us back, so maybe that'll happen again, but we talked about how, like, with, you know, we're long gone are the days where everybody just teaches reading the way they feel like it, and we're not operating in isolation, and in many ways with SEL, is similar. Like, we want to make sure that kids get a guaranteed and viable social emotional experience in our schools. So for example, prior to this year, all of our kids would rotate, and I'm going to give a Philomath Elementary example. We call it Fantastic Falcons, where our counselor at our school would teach lessons and can design it based on the needs of those classes, so everybody's getting that access. And then based on an assessment or needs, it could be reached out from, you know, at the beginning when we did registration, we had families say, hey, by the way, our family's going through a tough spot. They could really benefit from a grief group, or we're going through a divorce. So our counselors are able to work and respond and run groups as needed. But every kid still accesses kind of a core, you know, Fantastic Falcons rotation. But this year, a big shift was also asking our teachers to leverage a lesson once a week. And so so when we think about that tier 1, everybody, you know, getting access to that, the program that we're using at Philomath Elementary is called Everyday Speech. And it's pretty plug and play, easy to use. I think that, you know, as I've polled and talked to teachers, like, it's very user friendly. I know the middle school, Mike can correct me, used to use Second Steps. So there's many of them out there, and, you know, I'm specifically talking about Philomath Elementary, and Mallory, I'm not sure, you guys have kind of a custom built one that you guys use.
Several research-based
Yeah.
curriculums. We use Counselor's Choices, we use Child Safety Matters, we use zones regulation, we use several. Happy to share it. And I send out newsletters to my families about what I do every evening as well, like Cub Update. So if you get Cub Update, you're seeing what I'm teaching as I'm teaching.
So it's in a lot of ways just like reading. We say, okay, everybody needs to get this, and then as we screen and we decide, okay, some kids need some additional support, and then some kids need intensive, even up to, we have mental health specialists coming to our school. We have kids who get additional check-in, check-out, and so we are screening and monitoring. And when we say screening, that sounds, I mean, you know, teachers thinking about, you know, who might, you know, be having big feelings, or they're struggling with this. And one thing I really like about the DESA screener that we're going to talk about a little later is sometimes in my past life, it would be the way you access support for SEL was because you got a lot of referrals. Well, that could be true. A kid could be getting a lot of referrals, and so we know they've got externalizing behaviors that warrants some kind of support, but that didn't also catch students who are internalizing. And so by having a way for our teachers to kind of think about those kids and screen that, it helps us capture more kids. And as I mentioned, we also, families will reach out. We'll also have teachers, submit a request for support. So there's different ways that we broker our resources. But as Cynthia said, back to, we want everyone in our school to feel like SEL is a part of their job. It may not be the core part of their job like our counselors, but even our PE teachers have key social goals in their program. We want our crossing guards, our bus drivers, everyone to feel like they have a part of SEL if our system's really going to be best.
And having it integrated, and then also having the instruction and the support to our staff, especially our students, our instructional assistants. We've started to do a lot of training in the last couple of years to be able to support there too. So we wanted to bring this slide to you just to give you some information about a grant that we received to Paloma School District. So what is multi-tiered system support, right? It's really a set of integrating multiple types of instruction, social emotional learning, behavior, and academics together, and then being able to have resource mapping or resource management with that, or we'll have instruction that's tiered for students, or interventions that's tiered for students. So one of the things that we were really blessed with coming into Paloma was Oregon Department of Education and Special Ed granted some funds that came through for the SWIFT project to come in, and they had come in and supported some training with our administrators over the summer and then in September, and then they're also coming back in February. One of the things that they support with that has to do with things like I just mentioned, some of those interventions, looking to see how we utilize the resources in the building, what kind of trainings that we need to do, and how do you prioritize that. When you look at the middle section of this is, where I get giddy is this middle section is really where you look to see, okay, what is it that we do for training this year? What do we do for training in 2 years? What do we do for training in 3 years? If you try to bring everything to your staff in 1 year, they just get a little bit overwhelmed. So prioritizing what the needs of our students are. So this grant was free, it's federal, and it also supports inclusion for our students. So again, all of our students feel like they belong in our schools. Next slide. Awesome.
I put a little snapshot at the beginning of the year. Our teachers were doing a little, our staff were doing a little sale car challenge, and just this is just a picture of that really while our counselors are key drivers in this work, there are many other staff that are key to this. Our speech pathologists, our special educators, administrators, teachers, and so these are really all the people that should be contributing to that. Wow. Yeah, and I would, I know I spoke with Mallory, and when we think about one of the things being new to the district, I'm still a learner here, but Lexi and Mallory showed me a document that had been worked on that had just a really big long list of basically different tools that we use at different tiers as part of our comprehensive school counseling. And so this doesn't even begin to say kind of all the different people and places and things that can happen for kids. And so I would love to have them invited back to share more about that and maybe what that looks like at the middle school and high school level.
So one of the tools that we use to decide how to use our resources is called the DESA, or the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment. And what's really different about this screener is that it asks teachers to look at students from a positive perspective. It asks 8 questions, and they answer these 8 questions for every student. But they're looking for things the student is doing right, instead of asking what we're doing wrong, right? So it asks things like, how often does the student help up here? Or
how often are they timely in turning in their assignments? How often do they take advice from a trusted peer or adult? So it gives the teacher a little bit different perspective on those kids who they might think, oh, that one, he's a troublemaker. But when they come back and they say, oh, look, he does things right too, and it can change attitudes to those students. So, and again, it is based on CASEL. They add a couple of their own goal-directed behavior, personal responsibility, and optimistic thinking. They also add into their screener. So we do that, and this is the second year that we've done it. We do it in the fall and the spring. We're using it at PES and then also using it at CPS and the middle school. Next slide.
And logic.
And logic, yes. So this is this fall's data. So the teachers do this after 1 month with the students. So they've gotten to know them a little bit. And the blue is a typical score. The green is a strength score, and the red are those students who have some need for some extra instruction. So that way we can help those students get into groups, give them the supports that they need to kind of get started. And you can see K1, we have a few more with need for instruction, which is, I think, pretty typical, and they haven't been exposed to as much, so they have a few more needs. But you can see as it goes along in grade level, the strengths get higher and higher there.
I would have expected to see the 7th grade bump to 6th grade.
Isn't that, it's really interesting to see those anomalies. You think, why, what happened there? What is that,
We were looking at that.
Quite familiar with that 7th grade class.
Seventh graders aren't really.
Pretty much what I'd expect.
It starts at 6th grade now.
The 6th graders are still kind of excited to the trend, and the 7th grade's kind of the heart, really, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike might,
Yeah.
do
Well, we were thinking too, like the end might be kind of a little bit low, right? So you have just a little bit of a spike because it's a small amount of students with their percentages. But too, the one thing that Mallory mentioned is the work that she does with regards to sending the newsletters home to their families. And so one of the premises with social emotional learning with the different curriculums that are across the country is that we meet with our families. And when our families are growing, right, then it supports our students in the schools. And so that's such a great. Next slide.
So here's a comparison of the, this year's is on the top and last fall's is on the bottom left. So you can kind of see the differences between last year and this fall.
Up at 7th graders last year, 6th graders, and there's also a lot there.
Right, so you have to move over one to see the difference
The
there.
same problems get older.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, you see that from 1st grade to 2nd grade, which is a building transition along with higher expectations, both behaviorally and academically. So I think you would expect to see that. Yeah. Mike or Mallory, do you have anything add to that?
Kind of already touched on this, that's specific to at tier 1, which is we say universal for all kids that accessing everyday speech, which is nice, it's flexible. Some people will do like the 1 30-minute lesson on a Friday, and some will break it up 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Fantastic Falcons, the kids rotate through with our counselor, and then things like our Falcons, such as our PBIS team, we do assembly recognition. It's hard to capture all of these that we do at the universal level, but tier 2, we have kids who access check in, check out, and sometimes I say it's not really an intervention unless you can say if it's working or not. So for example, if a student is having they have a lagging skill and a behavior, and we want to have them kind of think about that goal, they'll have like a little check-in, check-out sheet, kind of reflect on it. In our school, Mr. McDonough does that. Lexi also does some as well. And so at the beginning of the day, kind of, hey, what's your goal for today? What are we going to focus on? throughout the day, the kid gets feedback from the teacher and kind of self-reflects. At the end of the day, they come back up. And I think that while I know some kids get excited about the extrinsic motivation or the points, it's really that relational contact that I think is always the number one in that. And I know our teachers really appreciate, just like, you know, another kind of adult, you know, being part of the team. And then zones of regulation, we think about kids just being able to recognize their emotions and their feelings and what strategies. We know from research that the way we regulate is through breathing, rhythm, pressure, distraction. Those are the kinds of things that are helpful. I already mentioned Kelso Circle, so for problem solving, sometimes that's a helpful thing. And then a myriad of different small groups that there's toolkits to use as needed. And then obviously with the more intensive, you know, maybe scheduled breaks or mental health or other individual kinds of things. Those are how we go through the system. And we have a team that comes together to look at our kids and look at the needs and how to kind of broker our resources. It's not exactly like reading or math, but we're trying to bring that as much. And I just kind of put in here, like, one of the challenges is time. When our schedule is pretty tight, and that's one of the things that can be sometimes tricky, but our team works closely to kind of when is the best time that we can, you know, in our school, with our counselor and also Donna does groups, they get really creative with the scheduling to be able to access kids. I'm just going to name the one thing that Anita Archer, when she came to our school, and she's one of the kind of the gurus, is she said, you know, be sure that you're not going to SEL your way out of kids who are academics, so make sure you're teaching kids to read. You got to keep that priority on those core academics, and that is going to, and as a former middle school administrator, I can tell you, every kid that cannot read is going to have significant social and emotional challenges, and so it's so important that we continue to really focus on that and in parallel. And so that's something I just want to point out and kind of what we're up to with our school and our schedule.
This has been really helpful with regards to the SWIFT, that grant that we were talking about, because that helps with that resource mapping and that scheduling to our administrators with the work that they're doing. Because definitely looking at ensuring that we have those routines, those structures, and have those resources. So as we look to see at our continued work and our next steps, of course, we're continuing our work with regards to MTSS and our SEL that's happening in schools with all the interventions and all the work of the teachers, the work of our instructional assistants, our bus drivers, our custodians, our office staff who were just here, our general education teachers, special education teachers, counselors, and our speech and language pathologists. Did I miss anybody? I mean, it's entirely the educators, everyone working together with regards to this work. The other one is looking to come back. We would love to come back and have our teams come in and do presentations with regards to some of this work that's happening, and then also bringing the behavioral work that's happening as well. And then we're continuing to work. We mentioned that we have our next meeting with SWIFT, with our administrators, that they're coming and they're flying out here again to meet with us. That's all through with the grant that we got. And do you want to finish it up here?
I mean, we will continue to do DESA in the spring, and again, that's a very quick assessment on each student that a teacher will do. I will note we do have a more comprehensive if needed to do on a student, and we also, one thing is that we make sure that parents are aware of that. That's just not something that, you know, we make sure that we let our families know in terms of that screener. And then I think we're in a good place with you know, meeting the expected ODE, but it's certainly not the heart that we're doing this out of compliance. We have known and we know this is the right work to be doing.
You have questions for us? Questions for our counselors? Questions for our special education teachers?
Very good. Thank you
guys very much.
Thank you.
One of my conversations when we bring people back and we talk about folks coming back, our counselors have been for years and continue to be an integral part of the work of how we dovetail those things together. And if the board is interested, I'll see if I can bribe them to come and share with the board some of the work that they've been steeped in for years. And that we don't want to lose the process, if that's an interest. So just keep me posted and I'll twist their arms.
You're also welcome to just come.
What's that?
So just come see it. We'll talk your ear off about SEL in school. You can watch it in there.
Can you send us that slide back?
Yes, the Susan has it.
I have it, yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay. Superintendent report.
Consult my notes. Since I have so many other things tonight, I kept my superintendent's notes very brief. One of the things that I want to acknowledge with our board members, but also to the audience who is here, that January is proclaimed as School Board Recognition Month. And for these people who get paid the big bucks to be able to sit around the table and do work for us and on our behalf, very much valued. So I'd like to read the proclamation put out by the state. It says, whereas Oregonians rely on public education to ensure a prosperous quality of life and strong economic health for Oregon. And whereas locally elected boards fulfill leadership roles and serve as the conduit through which teachers, parents, businesses, and communities demonstrate the care, creativity, and support that lead to student achievement. And whereas public schools nurture and train diverse student populations to the best of their ability, whatever the resources, to give students the knowledge, skills, and opportunities they need to succeed. And whereas board members build the framework that makes it possible for education organizations to teach Oregon's children, we thank the committed community members who serve on the boards of Oregon's 197 school districts, 19 education service districts, and 17 community colleges for their dedication to the educational needs of Oregonians. I, Tina Kotek, Governor of the State of Oregon, hereby proclaim January 2024 to be School Board Recognition Month in Oregon and encourage all Oregonians to join in this observance. So just reiterating how much we appreciate the work of the board and what you do and give at every moment. Board members got certificates and chocolate chip cookies and cards, and the other thing that I need we need to thank Michelle for, she got an idea from another district, because we keep thinking about what do we do to acknowledge and represent our board members without adding other knickknacks to the shelf space. And so the unique thought this year, you will see that, and some of them shared at the beginning, they have a book. And they were asked to select a book that was a favorite of theirs, or is a favorite of theirs, and to be able to write a note in it that may have some notation to students. And what we're going to do is to give those to Ashley Fulgate, who is our library media specialist, and she will place the books that have been purchased on behalf of the board members in our libraries within our schools. And so it's just a nice touch that's not another knickknack that goes on somebody's shelf, but felt like it was really representative of being able to give And then just a reminder that the calendar committee is gearing up to be able to look at the draft of the 24-25 calendar. So stay tuned, that will come back to you. And Dave, on behalf of Dave and Nicole, already mentioned the work of this co-curricular committee that had been charged and tasked with looking at extra duty assignments and things like that. And there's a lot of work still to be done, but the committee, which was representative of administrators, teachers, was, the work they did was very, very thoughtful and came up with some really good, solid recommendations for us to consider and some pathways to look at some next steps. And so very encouraging work, very thoughtful work, and we're going to keep going. So you'll hear more. We just met yesterday to be able to begin the conversation about, now that we have their initial report, what's next. And so I'm encouraged and I continue to be heartened by that, and I think some good things will come out. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Financial report.
Is Jennifer gonna be in here for that or not?
Nope, she's got a family birthday to spend tonight, so we sent her on her way.
Sure. I didn't know you had notes for that.
To be able to be out of here. So as she states, her report is pretty straightforward on all the usual reports and pieces of information, so there was nothing outstanding that she put out in front of us. There is a resolution that I think comes later in the meeting.
Yeah.
For us to be able to deal with that I'll explain. But if there's questions, I'll do my best to answer.
I didn't know. I'm good.
The reports are pretty questions answered in them.
Yeah. Well, and that's evidenced too by the audit report. I mean, the auditors were here for a day, and the auditors have never been here for just a day. They've been here for at least a couple of days. And so it's just testimony to the efficiency and the way things that are set up and how things are running, that it's really good.
You can probably answer this question. I'm looking at the enrollment. And last year we had 15 part-time students, and now we have 0. Is that we're not tracking like we did last year, or?
We're having difficulty pulling out the tracking of part-time.
Okay.
There are fewer, I know that, but the ability to easily pull out 0.5 and hourly, we've got to find a different way to be able to do it right now.
Okay. Well, I just noticed that through the year, it's been a lot less than it was last year.
Yeah, it is less, but there still are some for whom they're not full-time equivalent students. I mean, they're not here for full days.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's the only question I had on that. So. That being said, we can go on to strategy and discussion, strategic plan.
Yeah, I wanted to come back around with, we talked at the last board meeting about strategic planning and how we wanted to move forward. And based on that conversation, the determination has really been to slow the roll a little bit. And so I go tomorrow afternoon and Friday to our statewide superintendent's conference, and the presenters at that workshop, or a series of the presenters, are the foundational folks around Studer, who's the company we're looking at, that we had talked to in terms of moving forward. So I will be able to gather more information from them about process protocol, and I also have the opportunity to meet with them face to face. I'm also doing some exploration around what could the Oregon School Administrators Group and or the Oregon School Boards Association provide to be able to help us, and at what cost, both in person time and finance, to be able to make that happen. So my intent is to come back when we meet again in February with kind of the pros and cons of a couple of different options, so that we can make some determinations about how we want to proceed and move forward. I know that cost is a consideration. One of the questions I have for them is what is the cost savings that we could see over the life of a strategic plan that may make it more doable and more thoughtful, or not. The other question was, can we purchase, if you will, pieces and parts instead of the whole? And what might that look like? Very clear in our conversations with administrators, again, that the stance that comes from there is, if we as a district are charged with the time and energy and product to be able to do our own, the likelihood of it happening and being an actionable document becomes less and less, just because of the bandwidth that we have of people involved. But want to be able to ask your questions thoughtfully. I knew this conference was coming up and knew that these people would be there, so I would have an opportunity to ask the questions, to then be able to come back with something that is more option-driven and more informed, to be able to have more than one option or questions to think about. So I wanted to bring that forward, but also, since our last meeting, be able to answer any questions that you might have on a strategic planning process.
Susan, I think one thing would be helpful. So when the Stratford student presented, there was 16 districts in Oregon that were using them.
Yep.
It'd be nice to know how many of them renewed after the initial, and for what reasons.
Okay. And there will be a number of those districts who will be sharing Oregon districts in the next day and a half. So I'll have some opportunity to be able to interact. But yes, I will.
Yeah, definitely like the renewal thing, like talking to people who are in the process right now, of course is helpful, but who's 3 or 4 years out and how do they feel about what the process was and are they able to maintain that work in their district?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, this helps.
So I've got some input on that also. I read Studer's thing. One more thing that I read.
Good for you. You got too much free time.
Oh, but
You
no,
should
this
get a
is
job.
late night. I have a job and I'm sitting at it. I take it very seriously. So yes, I read through the Studer thing. For one, I believe they're very good at marketing their services.
Yes.
I have no reason to believe they don't provide the services that they say they do. In reading through this, it looks like a lot of it would be on us to do. I feel like we're already doing a great job. I don't feel like we need to spend $54,650 plus 14% every year to have somebody do something for us that actually we're doing ourselves. I know there's value in the information, there's value in a strategic plan. I think it's over and above what this district needs. I think that we should look in-house a little bit. We already have a person on our payroll that does special projects. I would propose that we investigate a way that we can do this better in-house, or at least let somebody do the footwork. Instead of paying an East Coast corporation to do the footwork, why don't we try to do it in-house, see what we need? I looked on ODE website. They have a thing that they call Continuous Improvement Process, CIP. There are resources there. There are resources in other places. There are actually templates all over the place online for strategic planning. I just feel like Studer is kind of more geared toward corporations and things. And I feel like as a school district, we could do a better job of working on this ourselves. If we needed to have a consultation to see if we're on track, that's fine. I know that in the year, school year 2017-2018, we did a facilities assessment study. It was for a long-range plan, which is great. We paid somebody, I want to say $50,000. That was done, and nothing became of it. It sat dormant and still is, from my understanding. So I think we have to be very careful about, this isn't the right term, but I think we have to be very careful about buying into something that maybe is not appropriate for us, and that the cost of it does not warrant the benefit that we would get from it when we're doing a lot of this stuff ourselves anyway, and we have somebody that can take it further that's already on the table. That's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Maybe you don't need to get a job, you have a job.
I told you, I take it serious. And I wouldn't want to do anything right away anyway, unless we did it in-house. I mean, I don't think we want to contract to do something mid-school year anyhow. I don't see any rush in it, and I don't see any benefit of like diving in without checking all of our options. So thank you for getting more information on that, Susan.
Thanks for your input, I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. We'll move past that and go to the makeup days. Do we want to, what do we want to do there?
There's a couple of ways that we can look at it, because really there's two things that we're looking at. One of them is student days, student time, and the other is staff time. They might look exactly the same, but they might not. The Department of Education right now has put out, they're going before the state board in February 15th is their meeting, to request an exemption of up to 14 hours of student instructional time to be able to be waived in this year because of the ICE issues. And so what that means is we have the equivalent of the up to 14 hours right now as it stands to be able to not have to have students make that up.
Does
So-
that include staff not making that up?
That does not. I mean, it's kind of like we've got to look at it in two different camps. It may not. I mean, there's pieces to the decision to make that determination. So for students, if we incur no other inclement weather days, we could feasibly make up one and count the 14 hours as the other two that the state board would approve. And we could do that.
That has not been approved yet.
That has not yet been
So
approved.
the next month.
The other thing that could be thought of is if we can waive instructional hours, does that mean we should or want to? For the sake of a day, yeah, but I think that's part of the consideration that we need to take a look at. So given that, if we want to be able to gather more information or wait for the state board's determination, it could be possible to make a decision to say we're going to make up President's Day, and the other is to be determined. Or we could choose to make them both up, or take it from, or just assume that the state board's going to say yes, and away we go. So really, 1 or 2 student days are on the table if you look at those hours. For staff time, staff will need to show up on the makeup day or the makeup days, whatever we determine. And so if we made up a day with only 1 day with students, that would be 2 additional days, 2 days with staff. That if we don't do makeup days for staff, we're saying we're going to give you 188 calendar school year instead of 190 days, which is within the board's right to be able to do if they choose to do that. If we only make up if we make up the 2 days, then there's 1 staff day that we could make the determination. If we only make up 1 student day, then there's 2 staff days that we've got to think about. The struggle when we looked at student makeup was right now our students are in school half a day on June, 16th, the Friday? Whatever the Friday is. I'm sorry? Yeah, anyway, their students are in school for half the day Friday, and staff have half of that second half of the day on Friday and all day Monday to be able to finish grades, all kinds of things like that, and be able to check out for the year. So if we added a day, we would add a student day. If we added a student day to the end of the year, it would add that Monday, which we know that a half a day on a Monday, we're not going to have students that we're not going to have students that show up. We added a day last year for staff at the end of the year for that same reason, that we didn't want to bring students back on a Monday. and it was met with a little bit of mixed blessing. Of being able to have a professional learning day when people are just burnt, they're done, for the year. So students are one thing, and if we forgive the hours there for students because of what the state says for instructional hours, then there's still the determination of the board that says we have a 190-day agreed upon contract with our staff. Are we willing to pull a day or 2 days off that to be able to make things whole, if you will, for the year?
We still have 2 makeup days scheduled into the calendar, right?
Right now we have,
Was it the February 19th?
we have February 19th and May 24th.
Okay.
So it's President's Day and it's the Friday before Memorial Day weekend.
Tonight, I think we should for sure say February 19th is going to be makeup day because, I mean, it's close enough. We're only 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks out from that or whatever it is. But I think we should minimally for parents planning and everything else, so minimally, I think we should state that one tonight.
I would be in agreement.
Yeah, my thought is to also make up the May 24th day, but then forgive the last staff day. That's my thought. Because as you said, it gets to the end of the year and just burn. So I don't know if that last day would be any good for anybody.
Well, and it was pointed out too at the last meeting that we had a lot of change at the first of the year with a new data system and a new everything else like that. And so we've had people that have been putting in their work. And so, you know, I want to make sure we hear that and take that into consideration with whatever the board makes their determination to be.
Well, do we get input from the teachers on this?
We talked yesterday at our meeting, and of course they didn't tell me get rid of the whole 3. But it might have been in the thoughts, but yeah, the idea was let's be thoughtful about everything that everybody has been doing. And like I said, last year it was very difficult for teachers to come back and check out on Monday and then come back for a professional learning day on Tuesday. It was hard.
Sure.
And you know, granted, we had a lot to do and had some opportunity to do some training around synergy. But some of the implementation this fall had wrinkles in it that people have worked really hard to overcome. And so, you know, really for me, the first consideration is the students and what do we want for instructional time that makes sense. But then the other part of it is what does that mean for our staff and what we need to make a determination about in the overall increment.
Susan, I agree. Go ahead. I agree with Joe in February, if we make it in February, I think we need to at least 1 day for staff go away. Because last meeting we talked about the calendar, we were trying to make the date and there was commented that we will deal with that when it comes if there's a weather event. We have a weather event, so we need to at least not have the staff come in one of those days if we can, we and all that do this, sounds like we can. But because the comment was made just a month ago that hey, we need to add these days to the calendar, you do this, we'll give you guys something, well, we need to hold up our end. Because now we've had the weather event, so I think we have to do at least a day for that.
And it seems like the last few years we've had 2 weather events every school year, where like we get winter 2 in early March usually.
Late February, normally.
Yeah, late February, early March, so.
And if we have winter 2, things
Then we'll have to revisit it, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. The 19th, let's pull it back. Let's maybe hold on.
We could wait to decide on the main one, because that's what, 4 months out, so.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of right before Memorial Weekend, people are gonna be gone anyway, they're just not gonna be here.
Well, and it might be a move, but we might have to use it if we have another weather event.
Right.
Like, I know that the teachers have put in so many extra hours and things, energy. I just, yeah. And then I did have a question though, and I feel like this is something I should know and I don't. When we do have inclement weather and school is canceled, how does that affect our classified staff? Do they just not get?
It all depends on the calendar. It all depends on the calendar that those individuals work on.
Okay.
So the number of days. So typically they would make up their time.
Okay.
And what we've
some people, a lot of people do have President's Day off. So it actually is a convenient day for some families to not have their kids in school. I'm not saying everybody, but some people, like I know several people that don't have to work on President's Day. If we have other makeup day options and you're thinking about families, it may be more convenient to use another day that's not a holiday that some people are given work off of for.
Are the 2 days in the
Just something
calendar,
to consider.
President's Day and the day before Memorial Weekend are the 2
Yep.
days?
Those are the
They've
two that
already
we set in the
scheduled
calendar
in.
as makeup days.
I'm thinking about some families, I know quite a few people who have President's Day off. And if there's already a scheduled day where I know some people have a problem, not everybody does, and we have other options for makeup days where maybe it would be harder for a family to get childcare for a kid. Just something to think about, something that came to my mind, something that I'm considering as you guys talk about which day to choose. I don't know if
That's a
you've
really
thought
good
about it.
point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
But the only 2 days we have scheduled are Memorial Weekend and President's Day.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
But that
But the
Friday
Memorial
before is a
weekend's
makeup
not
day
a-
too, isn't it?
It's not a day that people.
The Friday before,
It's the
no,
day
President's
before
Day.
Yeah,
Memorial
the
Weekend.
Friday before President's Day is
Yeah,
also
that's-
a makeup day.
No, that was voted at the last board meeting to get to a 190-day calendar to be a teacher work day.
Okay. I didn't realize that, okay. I thought that was also a mix.
Sorry.
No, no worries, I'm just something to think about.
And I'm sorry, you had said, is there an estimate of when they'll decide?
They're gonna decide February 15th at their state board meeting.
Oh.
That's why
That's
at
not
least
a very
it's-
helpful
yeah, I
day.
know.
Because there's a chance we may have to make up 3 days if they don't agree at the,
So any forgiveness.
so there's a chance that it might have to be 3, but we're not gonna know that until.
Yeah, I mean, Corvallis has hedged their bets to say, if the governor's putting it forward that, or excuse me, if the director of the Department of Ed is putting it forward, which is who put it forward.
Plus Portland just lost 5.
I'm sorry?
Portland lost 5 days last week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on top of
And
no
they
school November.
And Cottage Grove and, yeah.
So, yeah, Portland's gonna drive the state.
And they have
Yep.
a lot of damage.
Yep, so, I don't see why they won't approve it. Because they've actually said that if there were more inclement weather days between now and February 15th, that the total for forgiveness to be considered might change. So, that tells me that there's there's a high degree of certainty that they're gonna say, we're gonna do the 14 hours. The other thing that they put out there is if they chose not to do the 14 hours, individual districts can waive Division 22 requirements of instructional hours for a year. I mean, so there are ways that we could go around,
How close
not that
are
we
to
wanna
that
do, but-
instructional hour requirement? Are those right at it? Do we have a buffer?
we have a little bit more of a buffer at the elementary level than we do at the high school level. It's nice to know that we've got hours that we can dip into, just to keep us on the actual safe side.
Well, also, isn't the Friday before Memorial Weekend a half a day? Because it'd be a Friday.
It would be a full day of work for teachers, but it would be a half a day, it would remain a half a day for
Just be a
students.
half day student.
Yep, yep.
So we'd only be losing a half a day. If we didn't have them come back that day, we'd only lose half the hours as opposed to a full day. So,
For the student days.
yeah, for the
Yes.
student day, yeah.
So we had
So-
moved and seconded.
Yeah. So all those in favor? And do you need to repeat the motion?
That we move, take the makeup day, February 19th, and turn it into a student contact day. So for all students and staff, and then postpone our decision on any other days till later.
Yeah.
That was the motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr.
Oh, you mean I have to go back to him instead of just continuing putting him in the bottom?
That would be nice.
Somebody's gotta give you a bad time. Might as well be me. All right, we'll go back up to, what is that?
C4.
C4. City of Plymouth proposal, 16th and Cedar Streets. Chris, you're up.
All right. Thank you for adjusting the agenda. and beat Monmouth, so
Which
go
team?
girls.
What's the?
This is the girls basketball fifth, sixth grade, farmers insurance team, so. The Cyclones. Anyway, hustle back as quick as I could, obeyed all speed laws. So, provided some information, and appreciate the flexibility to get that in the email, and the flexibility to move the dates with the ice apocalypse that we had. Glad I made it on the agenda, so hopefully you guys get a few extra days to read through the material that I provided in the memo. Won't regurgitate the entire memo, but just kind of in summary. The city's really excited about this project. As the memo covers, there's quite a few years we've gone into building up to now with surveying the public and the community and working together between the school board and the city council. Recognize we've got some newer school board members that weren't on at the time, but those were good meetings and there's good collaboration identifying problematic areas within the community, specifically around our schools for drop off and pickup directly. One of those areas identified is that 19th and Applegate intersection that everybody's familiar with, and the 16th Street expansion and extension project was identified as a way to help alleviate congestion at 19th and Applegate, being able to provide a little bit more of a grid system, additional ways in and out of the elementary school is going to alleviate a lot of traffic that currently has to go between schools. Everything has to go through 19th and Applegate right now. So that was really the intent of moving forward with the project. Obviously, we're here at the elementary school now. We can see the current condition of the road, the sidewalks, limited to just the one side. Even the lighting can do some improvement out there. So every aspect of this project has been built around increasing the safety and the efficiency for the kids, as well as putting our bus drivers, our parent drivers in a better position to come and pick up kids and drop off kids. So I will say at this point, I know the school districts have started engaging with the bus service provider on what those exact routes and pickups and times and all that's going to look like. So I don't have that level of detail. That's really going to be up to the school to determine what's best for them. But the project does include kind of some additional space for a pull-out along 16th Street that isn't there now. So that will provide room for either the buses to pull off or vehicle pickups to have some extra space there, as well as, full street width for both lanes of traffic, north and south on 16th, and then adding a parking lane for on-street parking, and then of course the sidewalk on the west side of the street as well. So just the existing street itself, big improvement, and then of course the cherry is being able to punch it all the way through the school district's current property, kind of south of the field, south field and into the land south, and punch it across to, we keep calling it Cedar and 17th, because we're connecting to 17th, but it's really Cedar Street. City map wise, it'll be considered Cedar Street until it makes the corner and turns up to 16th Street. And so, but as far as the project, we're calling to continue to Cedar and 17th, which is where it'll end, is at 17th and Cedar. So it's continuing that path all the way around, connecting over there. Putting some nice street trees along the way, have it look nice. There is an impact. I'll go a little more detail again just because I know some of you already were on the board before we really talk through this project. It will impact the walking trail, the athletic trail that got installed a few years ago. It's gonna misshape it a little bit, so we'll have to change the layout of that. We'll take down the fence and put the fence back up in a new position. That's all gonna be part of this. There's no cost to the school district on doing that, so it's all included in this project, that impact there. And then the main reason for tonight, the big impact is going to be the dedication of school district owned property toward the project so that the street has a place to go. So currently, I believe the map was in the packet. It shows there's one tax lot that the school actually sits on, and then there's a second tax lot just south of it that the school district owns. It's owned for a long, long time. Doesn't have access currently. I think some classes were held there years ago, but it's been some time. Talking to school districts, seems unsure what the future of that might be. But in those discussions that we had earlier in the year, The consensus was that we would, the school district would deed that property over to the city so we could make it right away and we could punch this street through. The city engineer has contracted with a surveyor to go out and survey everything, come up with all the legal descriptions of the property. There's one table in the packet that I gave you that shows all of the swappings. It's the colored sheet that shows what properties are going where. And just to keep it simple, it's really 2 steps. The first step is to get all of the property that eventually is going to be right away on the one tax lot. It happens to be the main tax lot that the school currently sits on.
5,900.
1,500.
5,900.
59, I thought there was a 9 there, yeah, 5,900. So all the land gets transferred up to there, that's gonna be used for the right of way. And then there's one dedication where all of the actual right of way itself gets donated and dedicated as public right of way. There's a couple slivers on either side that just kind of makes sense to do the land swap. One is from one school tax lot to the other one. That's on the east side, the other's on the west where it's a current school district property. That's gonna end up this little sliver on the south side of the roadway next to the city property. And again, it just made sense when we talked through this earlier, to just go ahead and deed that over to the city property so the school district doesn't have this little triangle over there to have to maintain, take care of. So it's all about making it work efficiently. I think overall, there's the total numbers there, the total acreage that'll be deeded from the school district over to the city for this project. So that's what we're looking for. I don't have the exact language of all of those deeds, so I'm looking for more of a general agreement from the board to authorize Susan to, once she gets those deeds, to review them, have the attorney review them, make sure everything lines up with really just the legal descriptions that need to be reviewed, and then go and authorize her to execute those. We'll get them recorded. City's paying for that as part of the project, so it's really just an approval of what's there. And just doing the administrative tasks, actually executing those documents.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
you or Rick, I don't know. So school property, publicly owned, city property, publicly owned. Is there a reason not just to do an easement? Why does the deeds need to be changed versus just easement? It's still public owned property. So it seems simpler that the school district gives the city an easement than doing all those other things. So I was just curious why that's.
Yeah. The easement would work. The public right-of-way dedication, it counts when you're looking at totals, mileage of roadways and everything gets counted differently. The easement doesn't solve the issue of these 2 little triangles that have been kind of misplaced in these odd spots, and so 20 years from now, it'll be like, why didn't they just do a deed instead of doing the easement? It's just a little bit cleaner with the project to have it come over as a deed. As far as moving the project forward, it doesn't matter.
So in terms of the form of community, no ownership change, but no public ownership change. It went from one public entity to another public entity.
Yeah.
Right.
Just who you sue when you trip over a tree root and break your arm.
Exactly.
So it's a tiny bit less taxes to pay on this little minute acreage that goes away.
Yeah, it's just house clean, basically,
But
housekeeping.
at the end of the day, it's all still belongs to the city of Florida. They're the public.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to the same thing. At the bottom line, they're gonna have the easement to go through with the street, is what it comes
Well,
down to.
at the end of the day, they're gonna own the street, not have the easement. At the end of this, they're gonna own the street instead of easement. But it's
Yeah.
still all owned by the public.
It's still owned by the
So
public.
no ownership change.
Right.
No effect to tax base, there's no effect, any of that, none of that changes really, it's just.
And
yeah,
all
it's just
fees are
simple.
covered, fees, sidewalks, maintenance, because the city, school isn't owned anymore, everything falls on the city here on out.
The maintenance of the street will go in there, the sewer lines getting replaced as part of this project. Of course, we'll have to insert new storm line. So all that comes over to the city. The only thing that stays on the school district, and we talked about this a little bit, is gonna be sidewalk maintenance, and that's just like any other property. Those adjacent sidewalks are the responsibility of the property owners.
We'll still talk about that
Yeah,
tonight.
that's fine. So that would be the only, potential future cost to the school district to be maintaining the sidewalk, which you have today. That responsibility is yours right now,
Which in sidewalk maintenance is
rare, pretty minimal. Yeah.
Very minimal, that's, yeah, but that,
But expensive when it has to happen.
yeah.
But bottom line is, this is no cost to the district whatsoever, correct?
No, I mean, no direct expense, and I'm only saying no because hesitantly, you're losing some of the ball field or some of the playground area, right? And the fence is gonna get realigned, so
Right.
those aren't financial costs, but it doesn't have an impact on the school district. There's some opportunity costs there because anything that you were going to do with that southern lot, and you now have a road going through the northern part of it. It does, to be fair, it does give you access to that lot that you don't have today, which may be a positive thing, depending on what the school district eventually wants to do with that southern lot. You'll now have a road going right in front of it, which I see as a benefit. But so there's some indirect costs and there's some opportunity costs, but there's no real direct financial costs.
Right, because the city's gonna replace the fence where it needs to be, so all that's going to be taken care of.
That's all part of the project. It's been budgeted in.
And the timeline is what?
The engineer has the RFP closed. I mean, the draft got released just this week, so it's ready to go out for bid. That process will take a month or so to get a contractor underway. They've been given timeframes, and Susan, I don't have it right in front of me. They've been given the school calendar essentially for last day of school, first day of school. So they've got some timeframes of when they can be doing work in and around the school, so 16th Street, Applegate Street. But it's in sync with that summer break, and so the intent would be as soon as school's out, we will be on site, moving, and they'll be done before school lets back in, preferably a couple weeks.
So it's reasonable to expect that they can complete it in that amount of time?
Yes, that's, according to the citizen engineer that's put together, yes. That'll be the expectation. If everybody that responds to us tells us they need more time, we'll have to negotiate, see what that looks like. But obviously, the intent is to have as least impact on the school as possible. And we'll collaborate with Susan on the exact time.
And the concern about the placement of the crosswalk that Rick brought up, will that be dealt with then?
Now's probably a good time to talk about that as well. As part of the current design, at the south end of 16th Street, just before it makes the turn and turns into Cedar, currently it's designed to have the sidewalk bowled in towards the road to narrow the lanes down and to have a raised sidewalk there. The thought behind that was any students coming up from 17th Street or over from the middle school, basically anybody coming up or down 17th that's going to make the turn and come up to the elementary school, if they don't cross there at 17th and Cedar, and they start heading up that way, they would have to otherwise go all the way up 16th to Applegate to cross to come back down, and we know they're not gonna do that. They're gonna get halfway up the street, the school's gonna be there at the gym, and they're gonna jet across right there. So the hope was if they don't think or remember, they all will remember it, but if they don't remember to make the crossing at 17th and Cedar, then that gives them a spot once they're up, and they can see the school, see where it gives them a safe spot to cross there. If it's not there, then they'll just have to learn and remember that they need to cross all the way down at Cedar and 17th to get to the right side of the road, the school side of the road, east side of the road, northeast. They'll need to get to the north side of the road then, so that when they come up, they're on the east side with the school side, or we just have to make sure they're not crossing in front of cars or whatever. So it was just an additional safety concern to get them there. There's some concern about having it there for other safety reasons. So again, it can go or it can stay. It was really just put there as an additional safety concern for the students.
Does it concern the fact that it was on a turn rather than on a straight section?
In that corner right there, where the road is turning, I just don't like it there, and I think we discussed it last board meeting that we didn't want that in there. So.
The bus company kind of talked about that too, as you get people coming around that corner, it's an easy place to speed up. And, we also know, we're in conversation right now about what we're doing with the whole crossing guard set up everywhere. And I would see us for education purposes, probably wanting to staff somebody at that corner, not so much for crossing purposes as much as to remind what the pathway is until we get that learned. But there was some concern that the crosswalk there might be more of a hindrance than a help, was a part of the conversation to be considered.
Well, and I would think that it would be a liability to the district as far as having to pay somebody to be at that crosswalk there. And down here at 17th and Cedar, we'd have, more than likely have to have a crossing guard down here, I would think.
And that's, yeah, that's, those
You
are
know,
the things that we have to
and
consider.
if we have a crossing guard at 17th and Cedar, they're gonna catch those kids that are coming up 17th and say, hey, no, you have to cross here. You can't go up there to cross. So I don't see the need for that crosswalk up there because there should be no kids on the south side of that 16th Street or what, Cedar, I guess it'd be Cedar there. Because that crossing guard that the district puts at 16th or 17th and Cedar would catch those kids and make them cross to the north side and then come across.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense to me. So, yeah, we can, it's a pretty easy engineering change. We probably won't even change the engineering plans, we'll just make a note when it goes out for bid that we're gonna straighten that area. And if we come back 5 years from now and we decide we wanna add it, we'll do another project, we'll add a sidewalk in there, so.
Cut the curb, lower.
The thing is, I don't see a problem with the bulb out or the raised piece there because it'll act as kind of a speed deterrent, you know, from racing around the corner. They're gonna have to slow down to go over. It'd be just like a speed bump, but we don't need a crossing there.
Okay.
So, I mean, the rest of it, I think, could stay there and future people, generations, whatever, might decide, hey, that's a good place for crossing now. So everything would be in place to put a crosswalk in there. Then you just have to do the minor crosswalk piece of it. So I'm not opposed to leaving it the way that you've got it designed because it's gonna be a cost to the city to redesign it and everything. So it's designed that way unless somebody else has a different opinion of that. I don't see a problem with leaving the bulb out and the little hump that they gotta go over, because I think it'll control the traffic a little bit better.
Just don't stripe it, just don't put,
Essentially
just don't put the stripes on.
Right, yeah, it's not a crosswalk, it's just a,
Speed bump.
yeah.
We'll probably add signage too, says like not a cross, no crossing.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but that's.
If it looks like a crosswalk, people might use it.
Well, but it's a minimal cost to put something in there that this is not a crosswalk, but I don't think that you'll have to put it, unless it's striped. I would think, personally, driving down the road, I wouldn't think that's a crosswalk, it's a speed bump.
Okay.
So.
And from the subject of things we don't need, trees and roads and concrete don't go together. No trees. That just makes it so somebody has to maintain them. Like I go back to those corrals, where high gravel, they put these stupid islands in the middle of 99. Nobody maintains them. And every now and then there's a person parked in the middle of the freaking road trying to weed this flower brush patch in the middle of the highway that doesn't belong. So no vegetation belongs on a road.
Well, and the thing is, if the district's gonna have to pay for maintenance of that sidewalk, I don't want roots underneath that sidewalk that we're gonna have to pay for.
Okay.
Because, and I'll get right to the point, that the district's being nice enough to the city to donate this easement, whatever, however you wanna phrase it, so the city can put their street in there, and they don't want to, and they say, I read your email, and it says that we can't come up with a one-time deal, and even though it says that the cost is minimal, if I remember your wording correctly in the email, for the maintenance of a sidewalk. I don't think the city would be taking on all that much, but I don't want anything obstructing that sidewalk in the future that's gonna cost the district money to maintain.
You don't put planters up there.
Whatever, but something that's not going to disrupt that sidewalk that's gonna cost the district money in the future and take money out of the classroom.
So we did not include street trees in the bid that's going out, Public Works, City Public Works, so we have to save some money rather than having a professional landscaping crew go out there and do those. So the city was gonna do those anyways, so we can have conversations about the trees and what's go there. The city has a standard for street trees that we'd like
If
to
you
look at.
wanna plant grass out there, that's fine.
Okay.
No trees.
Well, we have to plant trees on city streets, so.
We can talk about how far back from the sidewalk.
Put them on the south side of the street, and not in lot 5900.
Yeah. We do, where street trees have impacted sidewalks, the city is paid to replace those sidewalks. So, that is a standard that we currently have. So if the concern is, lifting the sidewalk or infecting the sidewalk. It's a city street tree that the city's maintaining. If it lifts the sidewalk, then we do maintain that.
Is that in code? Because you quoted the code that the landowner has to pay for all maintenance to the
Right,
sidewalk.
unless it's caused by.
Whether it's caused by the trees or whatever. I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
argumentative, I'm just going by your rules. And I don't want the district in the future to have to pay for things that are put there, you know, like trees and the roots come under there and push the sidewalks up. I've been in Corvallis and there's some of them sidewalks that are, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, they're steep where the roots are at.
Now, if it's a private tree, then it'd be up to the property owner. If it's a city-owned street tree that we're maintaining and it causes damage to the sidewalk, then absolutely we're gonna take care of the sidewalk. I don't know how we can.
So is that somewhere in the
force property owner to
codes
do
or
it, so.
anything? I mean,
That's a practice, it's probably in the code, but I mean, that's what we do. I think you'd have a hard time arguing that you gotta fix the sidewalk that our tree busted up.
Well, how do I
Understood,
prove
but
it's
if
your
we're-
tree if it's on our property?
No, it'll be a city street tree.
It'll have a
Okay.
name on it.
All right.
It'll be a record.
All right, I'm just looking in the future and trying to mitigate any problems that could come up in the future.
Well, and it's on record in this meeting now.
That's right, well, that's exactly it, so.
Do city code does allow dwarf trees, do you put those old things that get about this big?
Well, we do have a list of approved street trees that the arborist has made that don't have roots.
That are least
damage
invasive, that don't do that kind of thing.
I mean, the city does this a lot. This isn't the first street the city has built.
Really?
And so like these issues with trees and sidewalks are things we've worked through.
You should come check out my neighborhood.
Well, that was built a long time
I'm
ago.
teasing, we're not the city street, I'm teasing. One thing that did spring to mind as we're talking about, increasing public access on school property is, do we have any safety concerns or any more playground monitors? Access to buildings, I know our buildings are already, the elementary school buildings, you can't get in doors where you're not supposed to usually, but is that something that's been addressed by this? Because I actually hadn't considered it.
Yeah, the fencing will all be maintained, I mean, the fencing will be there, so.
Like,
I believe in taller fencing and razor wire.
I'm thinking like I am 5'3" and clumsy on my best day, and I could get over the fence if yes,
Right.
if I wanted to. Not suggesting that I ever would, because then I would actually break a bone, but I'm just thinking, we were talking about potential costs to the district, adding a crossing guard over there. I just wanted to make sure that is something that's under consideration, is that we might need an additional playground monitor to be a little further out. They're not, you know, they don't have to do that right now because there's no access past where city works, that's what that's called, public works, thank you, past where that is. So just something that's sprung to mind that I think is an important consideration.
Well, I think that's a good point too, because they are our most vulnerable population, our elementary kids.
And also some of them are runners.
Yeah, exactly.
A little kid can climb a fence really fast.
They try to keep kids in and people out.
So just yeah.
Yeah, no, it's, one of the things that's been raised, was raised just this weekend at the, city council's listening session, this weekend was, right now when the cars come off the couplet. And, at the end of the school day right now, they're backed up. And we've got little kids that decide to go in groups and just dart across the roadway right there.
Oh, yes.
And so, we've already had conversation about would it be smart to maybe put somebody down there to direct kids down toward McDonald's to cross down there, not to cross kids there, but, to be able to do that. In the change of this setup, might that alleviate some of that backup coming off of the couplet, that instead of putting somebody there, you put that other person
17.
down closer, you put them at 17th and Cedar. We're still in, 19th and Applegate is still an ugly setup for crossing, it is. And, you know, we've gone back and forth about the need for maybe 2 people out there, but the struggle with that is you get 2 people and you got mixed communication. So I'm not sure who to watch.
Right.
And then what do I do? So does it make it worse or does it make it better? So we're kind of taking a look at the whole of the crossing guard setup, and what is it that we need to do to be able to take care of that.
I recently saw a very scary near miss.
Oh, yeah,
I
there's.
texted you about it. Yeah, I don't want our crossing guards at that intersection have to scream at people.
Yeah.
To get them to stop, so I do think too, don't want to make sense, but that's a separate topic.
Yep.
Okay, I have one other question. Our lot 2700, which would be on the south side of Cedar, that little section that will be, will there be something in this that allows us to put a driveway in there so we can access that?
Yeah, we talked about that initially, of having an access a curb cut or something there. Just let me know where you want it. If the school district's got a better idea of where, if you want on the east side or
Potential
west
use of
side.
that
or
southern lot, yeah.
For potential use of that southern lot, so.
Yeah.
Potential,
Yeah.
Because it'd be a lot easier to put that curb cut for a driveway in there now
Yeah.
as opposed to, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, maybe 5 years.
That's Joe, if he has the, or I don't know.
Yeah, but that's something that we'll direct Susan to handle with Joey as to where he would like to see a curb cut in there so that we can access that south lot there.
Yeah, I think anytime in the next couple of months, so we've got some time.
Well,
We can still go
sooner the better, that way then, it's out of the district hands into your hands, so you can design it in there and have that done. But I would like to see access, that we can access that if we ever decide that we want to do
So
something.
they'll say the school district have to pay for it later, so we'll do it now.
Without that note, I don't exactly know where, I know what's over there, but, does that need to have some sort of barricade in it? If you put a curb cut in so that we can drive out to that field, does it need anything there in this process, like those?
Put some trees there.
If somebody really wants to.
We would have to look at that, and if the district so decided, we could put a cable or something across that, so
If somebody's that intent on driving off, they're gonna go over the curb.
They're gonna go over the curb.
They're gonna go over the curb.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something that the district will have to address in the future too, but I would just want to see the curb cut put in there so we can have a driveway access.
Yeah, we definitely do the curb cut, that's all right.
Other than that, I don't have any problems with what's been presented. Since we're not gonna be on the hook for trees pushing the sidewalk up, so.
Are we ready for a motion then?
Yeah.
I move to authorize school superintendent Susan Halliday to approve and execute the deeds and easements needed to complete the South 16th Street widening and extension project.
Can I
Sure.
have you put a little addendum on that? With legal counsel approval.
Okay, with legal counsel approval.
Yeah.
Sure.
Susan?
Yep.
Okay,
I'm good.
all right,
I will second that.
okay. Any more discussion?
I don't want trees, I'm not gonna win, so.
We'll consult with you on the trees,
Well,
we'll give you a say.
For the record, Ryan and I were talking about planting some Christmas trees down there with some kids, so,
That's true, a couple like, bird, and we just pruned like Christmas trees,
So-
decorate Christmas time?
Yes, that's right.
so an arboretum in the lot, but, right, so. So 3/8 minus trail through there.
Student business.
All right, what's been moved and seconded, with the changes that we discussed, with the curb cut and whatnot.
I'll follow up with an email to Ms. Holiday, make sure that we get those enumerated, and we'll get them added in there, and make sure we're clear. Yeah,
Perfect,
absolutely.
okay. All those in favor? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thanks,
Thank you
Chris.
much. Great project, again, just super excited about moving this project forward. It's gonna be great for the kids, it's gonna be great for the whole neighborhood, and I said this, but again, some of you are new, so I'll say it. I've been here for 10 years, right now as a city manager. This street, 16th, has bothered me since the day I moved here, and I complained about nobody's done anything about the street for the last, however many years, 50 years, 75 years, the school's been here. When I've been here long enough, I feel like now I'm part to blame too, right? It's been 10 years, I've been doing nothing about it. So I'm glad to finally move in and do something about the street to improve it. It's just gonna make it for a lot safer street for all these kids. And also, I have a kid here in the elementary school while it's happening, so, it won't be too late to get some personal benefit out of it as well, if not another, so.
Well, I don't have any kids in school, but from what I can see, it's gonna be a lot safer for everybody, improve the traffic flow. It's gonna improve the city of Philomath for their street, deals and everything to improve flow and keep some off of 19th and Applegate. And that's something that we still need to address in the future, is how we can keep more traffic off of that, so.
Thank you.
This is a start.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris. Thank you.
I didn't mean to get defensive about trees. I just get emails when we don't have trees from angry people. You can't win.
Well, that's fine, but I don't like to see roots underneath sidewalks either.
This last episode,
Okay, let's get back to business here. Discussion action items, the 24-25 budget calendar.
Yep, Jennifer put forward, and has put forward to the budget committee, of which you are all part of, the 24-25 budget calendar. There have been no changes since the budget committee meeting. Nobody came back with input that said this is not a good day, can't do it, or anything else like that. And so her request is that that be approved as set up, but knowing that there are times when
Changes.
some of those meetings are if needed, and we can always make the adjustments from there.
Yeah. Okay.
I move that we approve the 2024-2025 budget calendar as presented in our packet.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Resolution 23-2402, transfer appropriations within a fund for fiscal year 23-24.
And this is really, it's moving the deck chairs. It's transferring
Sure.
to be able to account for the leave for the classified employees. And so it's just moving it from one place to another to be able to appropriate it out of the right fund. And so it's nothing new. It's just moving things around to where it's most appropriate.
Okay.
Specific language on the motion, correct?
So do you just want a motion to approve the resolution then?
Yep, please.
I move we approve resolution 23-24-02. That's stated in the agenda.
Okay.
I will second that.
All right, moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Integrated guidance grant presentation and approval.
These are two very similar in terms of their presentation. And the state's request with some of these grant projects is that they go through a process of review at a school board level and the ability for input and comment. And why is, there we go. Approve. I'll just kind of walk through some of the history of, where things set up.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Way to go, 5th and 6th grade basketball. Thanks, Mallory. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
In prior years, there were, we had a high school success grant, we had the SIA, or the Student Investment Account, we have career and technical education. What the state's intent was to put those all together into one plan. And so this was submit last spring. But it's the opportunity now to be able to take a look at the final, or the pieces of the final reporting of 22-23 and the plan for 23-24. So I was pretty specific in that about what the intents were. In 22-23, all of these were independent applications. The single integrated application was what we did for 23-25. But really 23-24 is what we're looking at for the approval. So the purpose, like I said, is about sharing information about our integrated guidance activities and application, not too much different than last year's, but looking at all the funding streams as a whole. And being able to make determinations from there. Providing an opportunity for board member questions or public comment, and then I'm seeking approval of the 22-23 final reporting and the 23-24 plan. So there's kind of two independent pieces of this. In 22-23, these were what we looked at in the funding streams that we got. The early indicator and intervention systems is really about a fancy way of being able to say, keeping track of data about kids and whether they're on track to graduate from high school, and are we doing the right thing with them. So, 4,000 plus. The High School Success Act grant, we had $399,000. We did have a 21-22 carryover that we added into that and expensed in 22-23. And then our student investment account was just over $1 million for the 22-23 school year. For our key activities in that year, what we did with the early indicator and intervention systems is we put it towards our cost to the Synergy Student Information System. There were some fees that we had to pay as a district for that startup. And because there is data in that system that allows us to track students, where they are, they're being on track to graduate, things like that, that it was an appropriate expense to help offset what we would have expended in general fund to be able to get us positive use of that money. For our High School Success Act, or Measure 98, there is some funding that was put forward to supplement our career and technical education programs, in addition to the Carl Perkins funding, which is run out of a consortium at Lynn Benton Community College. At the high school specifically, because the high school success is a percentage for 8th grade, but the majority of it for a high school level. Specifically at Philomath High School, there was an implementation of data teams, primarily spent in a lot of Friday afternoon professional learning conversations that takes a look at teacher collaboration around student data. So it's not just the administrator's role to be able to look at data, but it has everybody in the system looking at student data and looking at individual students. And primarily it was about systems of supporting their on-time graduation, and we were charged with also looking at equitable assignment to advanced courses. Do all students have opportunity to advanced courses, or are we limiting some of the access? Graduation rates for this year will come out tomorrow morning and be publicly available. I think that the Center for High School, or the High School Success, or Measure 98 funding has an impact in a positive way on some of what we'll see. And then professional learning communities, which are really about centered around looking at students and their data. For our student investment account, we put funding into behavioral mental health support, so licensed staff and classified behavior specialists, district projects, school improvement, our English language development support of our classified staff. We moved some instructional assistants into this funding. The extracurricular fee reduction for middle and high school athletics and drama. Literacy intervention materials, the professional learning communities that we sent some high school folks to this past summer that they participated in California. For professional learning in the areas of equity, response to instruction and intervention, and social emotional learning. Some of our specialists in our response to instruction and intervention program are funded out of our student investment account. We did some social emotional learning instructional materials, and also our student school supplies and fees came from this funding. So that's kind of the big headers of what we did in 22-23 with those funds. For 23-24, let me back up. For 22-23, one of the things we had in our student investment account was an afternoon. Why is the battery running low? Does this not get plugged in? Sorry. I plugged it into the extension cord. Well, you know, minor little details, thank you.
Windows don't just hold electricity.
Yeah, go baby. In 22-23, one of the things that we had put in our student investment account was, thank you, Michelle, a late transportation route for students. So for students who would stay after school for athletics or anything else like that, to be able to have a transportation route to take students home. And it never grew wings, really. And so there's some more investigation we want to do about that, but it was one of those things that just didn't come to fruition. So anyway, for this year, we looked at our integrated guidance, and we were looking at $3.2 million in overall amounts in terms of the early interventions, or early I don't remember what the words are anymore. So many acronyms. Early indicator and intervention systems. The High School Success Act and the Student Investment Account. The Everyday Matters with attendance was one of the things that was suggested in the guidance. There was no independent funding for that. So that's kind of assumed across all of these accounts. So for 23-24, we're at 1.7 million. You'll notice in 24-25, we're at 1.5 million. Those 24-25 amounts have not been updated. The intent was for when they increased 23-24, that it would increase 24-25 accordingly. But in the last piece of information, those amounts have not yet been updated. So we assume, which is a dangerous thing to do, that 1.5 million will exceed the 23-24 total, but those have not come out yet. So we're just being aware there. There is a regional allocation for our career and technical education managed through Lynn Benton Community College. That's not money that we control. That's money that the regional consortium controls. And we have supplemented some of our CTE programs and activities through our high school success funding. And then Kings Valley also gets an allocation, and so I put together, they're getting $259,000 in the first year of the biennium, 221 again, with the amounts not updated for that second year in 24-25 for just about $500,000 for Kings Valley. So the progress markers that we've been asked to look at by the state include this series of information here, that those are things that we're going to be asked for feedback on. So what did you do to include community engagement in your plans? What are you doing with use of equity tools? Are you using data teams? And so these are the kinds of things that they are going to ask us to base our success on. So our proposed activities, which aren't very different than what they were in prior years, it's just how they've been spread out. So we actually put more of our response to instruction and intervention specialists in this because we had the resource and the bandwidth to be able to do it. Our English language development support staff is still there. We have given ourselves some more instructional assistance, some of them specific to some high needs. So we've increased there. Our career technical education coordinator has been in this funding. Services and supplies, and so the initial plan had a printer, the clothing closet, the food handlers cards for our kids in the foods courses and the TB testing for our health occupation students. That flexes a little bit, dependent upon need. And then there was a need for some manufacturing technology equipment. So those kinds of things for the career and technical education are in addition to what's been requested and asked for within the regional CTE money. And so, we're just looking for, after that regional money is spent, where are the holes and what are the needs? Our CTE programs at the high school have been very good throughout the years in being able to say, this year is the year we want to upgrading equipment and materials for this program. And then next year we'll give it to this program, and the next year we'll give it to this program. Of course, spreading out as it's needed, but really being very thoughtful and equitable in the expenses. Some credit recovery support for programs at Philomath High School, looking at career day supports for Philomath Academy and Philomath Middle School. Philomath Middle School will have its career day again this year. They try and do that every 2 years, and now they're back at it post-COVID. Our success coach at Philomath Middle School, we look at instructional intervention materials, literacy and math instructional materials. What we have in the general fund for instructional materials adoption, which typically has been around $75,000, won't touch a total amount required for a full-scale with integrity adoption of instructional materials. And so what we've done is put some of that into this fund to be able to supplement what we have typically put into it, because we know that if we buy a base set of instructional materials, so it's time to adopt math, for instance, that we know that if we want any of the ancillary support materials or the oh by the ways that help with the implementation, it's going to cost more. And so that was our place of being able to supplement. And again, reducing our extracurricular fees for athletics and drama. Our summer bridge program, so a summer program for targeted 8th graders to 9th graders to look at achieving success. Our freshman success class, again, the school supplies for students. Data management, we put Synergy back in there for that $4,000 of EIIS money. The high school has also recently implemented something called Smart Pass that they are trying and piloting through the rest of this year, which is really designed to track movement in classes. I gotta go to the bathroom. And then you're gone for 45 minutes. And so how do we keep better track of what's happening there? And so it was an opportunity to pilot that, of which I have heard already that there are some students that are very unhappy that
Can you track that? Like, somebody pointed that you can't ask people health questions. So how are you legally allowed to track somebody's bathroom time?
What it is, it's really an issue of, I mean, it's looking at time, and I'm sure that the system is set up on a time factor. So if I create, tell me if I'm wrong, if I create, as a student, if I create the pass, and the teacher knows it, and it's all technology based, after that certain period of time, that screen turns red, so teacher knows that kid's been gone for X amount of time. It may mean that we know for a particular student that there are accommodations, there are things that we need to do. The bigger catch, I think, beyond that is I want to go see a counselor. And then I go to the counselor and sign in to see the counselor, but the counselor's not available, so I'll sit in the counseling office and wait. And I might wait for an hour in order to see the counselor when I'm out of class. And so it's a way of being able to try and track movement.
So does it actually, is it an actual tracker? So
No.
Oh, he's going
No.
to the bathroom.
Yeah, but it says I have a pass to go to the bathroom, but if I decided to go to the counseling center and stop by the gym and join my friends to play basketball,
It's not going to tell
that's
us
what I
that.
did. It's not gonna tell us that, but it's gonna tell us how long you've been gone. And there's all kinds of other things that we believe it can look at, like how many people are asking to be gone at the same time and meeting up who knows where. So, all those things that.
Does that information though, there's nobody to deal with it, because that, I guess there's probably other information that it does, but it's, if somebody's gone too long, there's nobody going to find them.
It actually does trigger,
Yes.
they get 5 minutes for the pass, for bathroom passes, set 5 minutes. And when they're 5 minutes late, when they go 5 minutes over, it triggers to the admin, and then we'll go out looking for it.
So it won't be the teacher moving by, it's somebody
No,
else.
admin has room for that. And the other thing is that it does limit how many people per bathroom at a time. So like, you kind of say which based on what classroom you're in, what bathroom you're headed to. They don't always have to go to those bathrooms. Sometimes that bathroom is lead service or whatever. But like, I work on the second floor, there's 5 classrooms up there. So between them, they're only gonna have 3 boys or 3 girls out, and 3 girls out at a time for bathroom passes, bathroom stuff. But the best thing is that we can limit which people can get out at the same time,
And
so
some,
that people don't meet.
and some need to be separated,
Yeah.
there's reasons for that. And then it's also, intent is to curb some vandalism, that's also.
That's a pretty significant thing.
So far, again, there knee-jerk reactions to always not, within the system that's put in place, but it's like not even been 48 hours, so they need to just take it back for a second.
It's cut down on bathroom trips,
It's been
by
great,
about 75%.
So I'm just confused a little bit. So you have a person in your class that needs a bathroom pass. Okay, Nicole has a person in her class that needs a bathroom pass. Is there a way to tie that together?
The office can program it so that it can say, so it can flag certain students.
Right.
Not everybody, but if we know there's these 2 boys who always get out of class at 10:15 and be in the bathroom for 10 minutes every day, we're gonna make sure that doesn't happen.
So we're gonna be able to know that that's
The
happening.
system will stop.
The
that.
system will do that, okay.
As
We
long as
just get
they.
notified who in our class signed up for a pass.
And you can't like say, hey, I'd like to go see Mr. Dunham, is that okay? Typically, you'd say, okay, yeah, I guess, let's go, we can do that. Now a student has to request to see Mr. Dunham, not for the bathroom, or just to go see him. And if he's busy or not in his room, he doesn't accept the pass, and I then will not release that student until that's accepted.
Oh, wow.
So then they're not just wandering the halls.
Right.
And so a lot of times I'll say, well, yeah, I guess if he's not teaching you, you go talk to him another way. Well, that eliminates that. If he's teaching, he's not accepting the pass. If he's not in his room, he's not accepting, and that student won't.
So are they actually carrying a device?
No, it's electronic.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm surveillance phobic, and it isn't bothering me at all.
Okay.
Because we're already doing this, because we're signing out
Sure.
times to go.
Sure.
So it's just a lot more street.
Yeah.
I'd be
I'm just
happy
trying
to not walk
understand
up to the second floor only to find
I
you on
really
your
didn't answer
classroom.
the back
I
question, to be honest with you, I don't like it. Hands raised in whole class.
Yeah.
You know,
I
middle of a
worry
great
about 5
discussion,
minutes, so
and I
that's
go to
not
the
very
bathroom.
long.
And all of that's, it can be adjusted, and even though it's set for 5 minutes, it notifies the teacher, hey, you should be watching, that student should be back anytime. Nobody's going into the bathroom and jerking them out at 5 minutes. It's just a recommended time. Like your time, you're done.
Yeah.
It just alerts that, a lot of times too, you can't have multiple people out. So if there's person, need to go to the bathroom and nobody waiting. So, yeah, we need to have some sort of like limit of, okay, 5 minutes, then. we need to
Comes
do
with
that.
some humanity, sometimes it takes 15 minutes. Or longer. And we have some kids who need to go a lot, and the kids are limited to a pass an hour, or 4 in a day. And a bathroom or water fountain passes. So it can only go once a class. So anyway,
Rick, did you
So we
have
have
to
to
take a
record.
pressure?
It's a hall pass.
Okay, you gotta turn the screen around so I can see the green pass. They just leave the screen, either their phone or their Chromebook on their desk, turned around so that the teacher can see it.
Oh, okay. So does that take up a lot of your time, or is it a huge
Yes.
distraction to be constantly?
It's gonna need to be smoothed out.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
there's
I
gonna
was
be little
curious.
bumps in the road,
Okay.
and every classroom is different in how it's managed.
Okay.
And so teachers are gonna have to find a way that they're
Yeah.
comfortable with, but admin's been great of working those little, it's not like just one system has to meet everybody.
Right.
That they've been
Okay.
adjusting and everything.
That's what was supposed to be, we were getting ready to do it.
Oh,
We didn't have
yeah, I
school, so
see.
when we started it.
The weather was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the students didn't like the QR codes for advisory, they hated that, and now they're begging to go back to QR codes. So it's like, they will come around, just give them a little bit, but.
It always takes time, yes, so. Cool about smart
There's no
cards.
GPS or cameras in there.
No.
No, God.
We're just gonna put a chip in their arm.
Oh, take care of itself.
Next year.
You have to scan them going in and out the door.
So you can see we've got school improvement and district projects, we've got student technology, this is a place where we've got a placeholder to be able to keep our Chromebook stash up to par. We also look at clear touch panels as a possibility of being able to grow in that. So we've kind of looked both directions. Our high school Philomath Academy staff, 2.75 people are accounted for in here. Our student assessment fees, so paying for advanced placement, SAT, ACT tests for students. Equity of student outcomes and opportunities really has to do with our equity work. We've got some students that take classes at LBCC, and so we've put a limited amount of tuition support there. Some for overall high school success, our equity team support, social emotional learning instructional materials, behavior and mental health support staff. We have a family support liaison that we get partially out of our money through the ESD, and we pay for the remainder of it here. And the same is true for a school psychologist that also comes to us from the ESD, and we pay for other pieces of it out of here.
Quick question, going back to, Philomath Academy.
Yep.
You said it accounts for 2.75, but I'm seeing 1.5.
It is, it's 1 point, it's 2.75 positions.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I took it as 2.75.
So, my bad. No,
Okay,
you're right.
thank you.
And then I just put in with the Carl Perkins funding this year, there is a career aptitude and interest survey called U Science that is being used, that the consortium of schools has agreed to pay for. So we get the opportunity to use that for our students at no cost to us because the consortium pays for it. This year, the request was for business equipment and culinary equipment supplies, and some from health occupations and what can be done. And so we don't have funding amounts in there because that's the consortium's determination, but it's packaged into the whole in terms of making decisions about where we put the district resource to supplement over the Carl Perkins or CTE resource. So that's the run of integrated guidance that really says this is what we did last year, and this is how we're moving forward this year, and wanted to be able to answer any questions, excuse me, either about prior year or future as we move into this year, and then we look for approvals.
More of a, I guess it's a concern to me than a question. So although sports and drama are important, there's a lot of budget there, but I think they need more budget to the technical programs. There's, in my opinion, there's so few people, I know that they build teamwork, they build life skills, but people don't make a living playing sports normally. They make a living having a job that is some sort of technical career something. So I think we need to, I think there needs, and I'm not saying move the whole budget, there's just something to get something going back in the vocational program, there's a little bit more that for vocational type jobs.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I had a question. I know that one of the bills that was passed this year requires schools to have a civil rights coordinator.
Yeah.
I'm probably using the wrong title there. Is that something that would make sense as an extra duty position? Because I know you said we're going to identify somebody already in the district, not hiring new.
Yeah.
But is that funding that could come from
It
here?
could, we could make the determination that that's where it comes from. Yeah.
I was just curious about that, and it seemed like it fit really well with some of the goals and strategy.
Yep.
And then I found a little tiny typo, but I'll tell you where it's at.
Okay, thank you. I am not surprised.
Oh, it's a very tiny one. Actually, it's smart. Seriously, literally small.
I think Rick has been gone longer than 5 minutes.
I think so.
Who's gonna go looking for him? Chris, that must be you.
So does this need a formal vote for approval?
It does,
from
because
us?
I need to have in the minutes that there is approval to concluding 2022-23 and the proposed plan for 23-24.
The proposed plan is not set, those numbers could move,
Anything can move, yeah.
but that's a total, it's kind of a total number.
Yeah, and it's just our initial of where we went, and we can certainly move things around as we need. And I didn't put 24-25 in there because that's gonna take more conversation to be able to do any adjustments we need to do there.
So
as
these
well.
numbers are really just getting us into the school year.
Yeah.
So what do you need for a motion then? Just approval of the integrated guidance grant?
It's really approval of the 22-23 final report.
Okay.
And approval of the plan for 23-24.
So moved. What she said.
I'll second that.
If that's okay.
That works.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Rick doesn't know what we just, what we just.
Motion passes 5-0. See, I heard what it was. Moving on to the early literacy grant
And this,
presentation and approval.
this I did in the same way. This is new. Funding that has come to us entitled, but the grant application was nuts to be able to finish, but that's okay, we did it. So in the Early Literacy Success Initiative that was passed, there are tribal grants, there are community grants, there are school district grants, and there are Birth to 5 literacy plan pieces. So the funding was in those 4 different pockets. We are in the school district grants. And so the purpose they put in is to increase early literacy for children from birth to 3rd grade. So we put money into our kindergarten through 3rd grade. We could put money into 4th and 5th grade, and we said, no, for what we get, we'll stay with K3, knowing that we're gonna do things with 4-5 as well. And there has to be a match to this too, so you'll see a piece of that. Reducing literacy academic disparities for student groups that have historically experienced them. Increasing support to parents and guardians to enable them to be partners in the development of literacy skills and increase access to early literacy learning. So that was our charge. House Bill 3198 was what brought all of this into play. And one of the requirements in that said you need to do an oral application or an oral presentation of the application and an opportunity for comment on the application, board member questions and public comment, and request approval of our grant application. Those are minutes, board minutes, that the state is asked to see before they'll approve projects. And so really this was the governor's initiative to be able to push things forward more on a level to look at early literacy. The primary grant writing, excuse me, was from Abby Couture and Eric Beasley and I sitting around a table, excuse me, with Jennifer Griffith and being able to have conversation. For 23-24, the amount was just under $94,000. And it has not yet been awarded, so it's yeah, interesting. In 24-25, that will be 97.8. Money can carry over, so whatever we don't spend in 23-24. So if they come back at this point in time because they haven't approved the grants and said you can do this but you can't do this, okay, we can carry it forward into the next year without losing it. And be able to adjust our plans accordingly. There's a 25% matching fund requirement, excuse me, which we pulled from general funds and our student investment account. And I put in also Kings Valley's application or allocation. There are key areas that we're supposed to focus on, so professional development, extended learning programs, and so they're looking at summer, after school, high dosage tutoring,
which can be small group, individual, it can be during the school day, but it's really those targeted assists and using research-aligned literacy strategies.
I have one question about
Yeah.
that other street. Does Kings Valley have the 25% matching fund requirement too?
They do.
Okay.
So we said for 23-24 for this year, we're gonna put, again, some of our response to instruction and intervention staff into this fund. Because that's what they're doing, that's who they're serving. The other thing that we talked about was wanting to bring back a summer lit camp that happened a couple of years ago. But we realized that that was in the 24-25 fiscal year. And so the more we talked, because we needed to put that into the 24-25 year, we talked about the importance of speech and where our students are coming from, especially our youngest learners, in some speech concerns that may not identify them for the need of specially designed instruction and special ed, but they need that little bit of a lift. Conversational terms we know were very different across COVID, and students just didn't get that. So we're seeing some things that how can we help supplement? And so the piece of our proposal that we threw in there was to say, if we can do speech that supports students that aren't necessarily identified for special ed for very brief targeted periods of time, oral language is one of the biggest contributors, indicators to literacy ability. And so what a better way to be able to then promote literacy with that oral language component. So we put it out there. And then we put money in for early literacy materials. The admin costs were really, you can take a percentage of a grant and use it for administrative costs. Typically here we don't. All the money will go towards students. And so really it was our way of saying, we're not sure entirely what we want to do with all this money. So we're going to put it into allowable admin costs. But as soon as we can put it into actionable student staff outcomes, then we want to do it. But it was the placeholder to get the application done. So then we added to the speech component, if they're going to approve for the second half of this school year, and then we can look at the whole of next school year, because our speech pathologists just don't have the bandwidth outside special ed to be able to do it anymore. And then to add in the summer lit camp expenses to be able to bring that back at K3, but it would be entering kinder, entering first, you know, so that would be the way it would work. Again, early literacy materials and our admin costs. The early literacy departments that will monitor these grants are also just now being developed. And so there's going to be some things we know we need to change, just simply because of what they will approve or not. But most people took the step of, we're going to do things that we're already paying for. And if they tell us we can't do it in this grant, we're going to do it anyway. So, you know, it's where do you put the funding and where do you pay for it? And so there's quite a degree of flexibility which helps us out here. So that's that one. And what questions, comments, what I need is the notation in the minutes that the school board has seen and approved our early literacy grant.
As a speech therapy survivor, I'd say that we, whatever we need.
As a parent of a kid who had assistance out in Peoria before going to kindergarten, it's so important, so helpful.
I had at least a little bit of speech therapy when I was pre-K. I couldn't say my R's for quite a while.
I couldn't say R-S-O-T. My name starts with an R.
My kid just invented his own language, so we were told it was a sign of creativity. I said, "Are you trying to make us feel better?" And he said, "No." I still think they might have been lying, but.
All right, so I would make the motion then that we have seen the presentation for the early literacy grant and that we approve the early literacy grant. Yes, I
will second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
All
Thank you for
right.
all of your work on that, that looks
Intense.
onerous.
Yeah.
It was quite intense.
Meeting closure thing, next meeting agenda items.
I don't know if this is a next meeting agenda item, and I'm thankful that for some random reason Christopher read my mind that I was gonna have a question about something he used to do here. When are we supposed to be working on getting next year's student representative applications, onboarding, like the election and all of that?
I don't know. Fire.
Next year, not this year, next year. Because I felt like we started at this time
I
last
would
year.
suggest that you start now because the person who coordinates at the high school is in the pharmacy.
Christopher, when did you go back to high
Not supposed to throw
school?
yourself under the bus. Okay, so that might be something to add to the agenda then for next month is kicking that process off.
Do you still have the document, of, like, sort of what the process was? Okay, cool.
Are you a senior this year or a junior? Junior. I mean. Just saying.
I said a 2-year term.
One never knows these things.
Unless she wants to reapply, which she's welcome.
I have on the bottom of this, approval of the 24-25 calendar.
And that may be a possibility, it may not be, but we'd like to be able to get it in the hands of committee, and get it back out. You know,
Multiple people campaigns.
we get, yeah, that's exactly right. And then we've got, you know, we'll make sure it's vetted appropriately through all the different groups before we bring it back.
Okay.
But we also figured that we want to be sensitive to the sooner that we make those decisions. You got grandparents making plans for graduation and, you know, when winter break is and all kinds of things like that. So the sooner we can get a calendar out,
Better.
we just want to be sensitive to that. So if it's not February, it'll come back in March.
Okay, and I can't remember, do we do the renewals in open session?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's be before March 15th, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but that's why we want to do it in February. And it works out by moving the meeting 2 weeks later because it gives a little bit extra time to get all those done.
Yep.
Kings Valley Church School Annual Report, is that something that they're gonna come in and do, or is that just a paper they're gonna give us?
I need to ask them. I would like them to come.
It would be nice if they would come make a presentation. So, okay, anybody have anything else that they want to see on next month?
Just noticed in the consent agenda, our new student services specialist.
Oh.
Stevie,
Yeah.
related to somebody in this room?
I didn't think so, but yes, now that we went down that path. That's another story, we're good, okay?
23 and me. My maiden name is one of the most common maiden names. My married name, if you find someone with my married last name, they're related to my husband. Every single one of them in the entire country.
I blame him, I asked, and he's like, no, but no, it's true. Yeah. So-
Okay, all right, hearing nothing else, board thanks.
I got one. I want to thank Brad for not quoting him when he called me during the.
He's saving it for later.
Probably when I was sleeping. Speaking of the ice storm, I would just like to thank all of everybody, because I know that is a full crew making decisions, but the facilities team for keeping all of our students, staff, and et cetera, safe with the ice sheets falling off the buildings. When you sent that email, I was like, I hadn't even considered that, but it's terrifying.
We hadn't either until you get the picture of them
Until you
hanging
see
that far
them,
over the edge.
yeah. And then also for the quick communication on the days that there were closures, I put it in my work chat, they announced for us, and then 4 hours later, my poor Vallis coworkers would be like, oh, they announced for us.
And then 4 hours after that, my Albany coworkers would be like, we might find out tonight. So I just really, not to like knock other school districts, I probably should have kept the locations anonymous, but I really appreciate how timely, the best that we could do, of course, those announcements were, which really helpful for us. And I'm just saying, put your James back on, kids.
I'll piggyback on what Erin said. I think everything that happened during the Ice Age was really good. I also want to reach out to those that did this. The school board recognition is very nice. Michelle, I love the idea of the book. I think it's wonderful. And yeah, just thank you.
Do we all want to talk about our book when we chose it?
No,
It's already quoted 20.
Yeah. I'll just say, this one was written by a Philomath High School graduate, Emily Simmons. This is her book.
What? So question with the books, I know we're supposed to write something today, but are we bringing them back? We want to do it right now?
Can I drop it off Friday?
Yeah, you can bring it back.
Okay.
My wife has to write, my handwriting's on
Okay, so I just need a minute to figure out what to say.
Yeah, this is her song, so you can scan the Spotify code and listen to her sing the song that's the book.
All right, well, I just want to say, same with Aaron, thanks for everybody that throughout the district that worked diligently and to make the students safe when they did come back too, so.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody that stuck it out with us.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
This might be the longest meeting tonight. This might be the longest meeting we've had this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's my wife's birthday, so you're
All right. We're adjourned.
One of the reasons that I said I didn't want to have the.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night is because tomorrow.
Christopher, did you not know that Emily Simmons is big on TikTok?
Well, I know she's big on TikTok.
This is her song.
missing an opportunity, right?
And